To tune in to today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Listen, we have a great show lined up for you. I'm your host, Kim Jacobs, better known as the Balance Doctor. And all of our guests that come on, they're either people that have overcome some tremendous odds in their own lives as they balance this thing called life, or they're experts and they're here to share tips and strategies that will help you better balance and manage your life. Grab your virtual seats and let's get ready for some real relevant and relatable content on today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Kim Jacobs Show. So glad to have you all here coming into the virtual studio audience, and glad to have you here, Kandace Grant. How are you today?
Hi, Kim. I'm doing well today. Thank you so much for having me join you.
Thank you so much for being here. You look lovely over there. And
Thank you, as do you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I love the background with the nice walls. You just like very aesthetically put together nicely over there.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. We went through a whole thing when we were painting the house. And so this turned out nicely. So this is one of my favorite rooms. So thank you.
Oh, yeah. It should be. It should be. It's really nice. Okay, listen, everyone, today we're going to be talking about a wide variety of things. Actually, I'll go ahead and give you a courtesy heads up that on the first half of this episode, we're talking with Kandace Grant, and we're going to hear her story. Her story is nothing short of heartwarming, heart-wrenching, and in some cases, even miraculous, I think, to say the least. And then on the second half of the show, we're going to be having her joined with one of her co-authors in an anthology, Gifts is Mama's Stories, Gifts from Our Mothers. And we have two of the contributing authors, which is going to be Kandace. You'll see her again. And then Tanny Swan, who's also going to be joining us for the second half of this show. So grab your seats, everyone. Let us know where you're visiting in from. Share your comments, your thoughts, and we'd love to pop them up throughout the broadcast. Kandace, take us back there. You know what? I really want to make sure I share people your bio a little bit too. But your bio says a lot of your backstory, so I'm trying to determine which parts to say. Kandace is a proud wife and mother of three amazing young adults, and one of those children we're going to talk about heavily throughout this first half. And she is also very heavily involved with Corey's Campers, and we'll talk more about that as well. She is an author, she's a speaker, she's a teacher, and she's an advocate. And as an author, she's an author of Be Willing, How to Live an Affirmative and Empowering Life Right Now. We're going to talk about how she actually was inspired to write that book as well. And she is appearing here on the second half with a new anthology, Mama's Stories, Gifts from Our Mothers. Welcome, Kandace Grant, to the Kim Jacobs Show.
Thank you so much, Kim. It is such a pleasure to be here with you.
Thank you. So listen, what we're going to do is I want to take a commercial break first and then recognize our episode sponsor. And I want to come back and just hear some of your backstory because people need to know who you are, where you've come from. And I want to be able to learn more about that. But today's episode is sponsored by drjod.com. drjod.com. She has a big event coming up, Healthopedia in Florida. And you're going to learn more about that now. Her phone number is 800-820-0584, or you can visit drjod.com to learn more. We'll be right back right after this break. Hello, everyone. I'm very.
Why learn about health when you can experience it? Experience it in beautiful Florida in February 2024. Join us for 3 days of integrative and intensive health and healing education and empowerment with the expertise of the following Healthopedia author, speaker, and facilitators. The world-renowned homeopath and acupuncture physician, Dr. James Marinakis, 4-decade health coach and holistic nutritionist, Dr. Joe D. Bear, and others such as Kimberly Meredith, Dame Doria Cordova, Rex Sykes, Dr. Gary Sanchez, Jamie Kerr, Serena Brown-Travis, and more. Experience daily morning walking and yoga, interactive participation, panel discussions, and more for your own epiphany of health. Get your tickets now.
Hello, everyone. We're back and we're talking with Kandace Grant right now. And I want to find out, Kandace, take us back some on your backstory so we can learn more about you.
Okay. I was born in Columbia, South Carolina, and moved to Charlotte with my husband. We raised our three children right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I attended the University of South Carolina, Columbia, and graduated with a degree of journalism. I did a lot of freelance writing when we moved here and became a mom. I was a full-time mom, so it mattered to me that I try to find some sort of balance between my passion and, of course, my passion in raising our children. So
Right.
I did a lot of writing for freelance on a freelance basis. Then eventually, life took a turn, and I began to write what turned out to be my first self-published book. Um, our three children were the center of my world, and I did everything with them, volunteering at schools, being very involved in all of their after school activities. So that's where I spent most of my time. I can go deeper into that backstory, but I want to wait to see if there are any questions you have about it first.
Right. Yeah. So you wrote a book. You said you wrote a book, and the book is called Be Willing. And I like
Yes.
the imagery on that. But the book is called Be Willing, and how to actually live this affirmative and empowering life right now. Now, in the book, I know that we're going to talk about that, but there are some things that you went through personally that were in your journey that you weren't even expecting to have happen, you personally. I know that there's some other things, but let's talk about your own personal situation and what you found that you had to deal with. And I'm trying not to reveal everything, y'all, so that's why
I
I'm talking
understand.
early, right? But talk
I
about your
understand.
kidneys, basically. Let's talk about that. We need to.
Okay. So when I was younger, maybe in middle school, my mother and I learned that I had what was called mixed connective tissue disease.
Okay.
And the way we found out about that is that I would notice in the mornings when it was cold, I would come into class and my hands would be a clammy kind of white, very frozen. It was hard for me to use them. And so I complained about this to my mother, who took me to a doctor and later referred us to a rheumatologist.
Hmm.
And he was the one who told me, okay, you have something that's called mixed connective tissue disease. And what that means is that your body reacts in a certain way, depending on the stimulus. And he said, in this case, when you're exposed to extreme cold, this is
Mhm.
called Raynaud's phenomenon. And that means the blood vessels are basically spasming. So what I want you to do is wear gloves and just be really protective of yourself. And as a young kid, I'm sitting there taking all of this in thinking, what does this mean? And he said, listen, my advice to you is that you be good to your body and your body will always be good to you. I thought
Hmm.
that was perfect. I thought it was just perfect. So as a child, that's what I did. I started exercising more regularly and I didn't have any other issues. Fast forward to after my husband and I had our first son, after giving birth prematurely,
Mhm.
I wound up staying in the we were living in Rock Hill, just outside of Charlotte at that time, celebrating the birth of our child. Turned out he had to stay in NICU because he was a little early, but he was fine. So the
Okay.
nurses and doctors said, "Listen, take mom home. You guys come up tomorrow, breastfeed, and everything should be fine, and you guys will be on your way." When we
Right.
got home that night, I found that I couldn't breathe. It was odd. I had to position myself in a certain way so that I could actually take air in. And my husband and I had no idea what was going on. So we wound up going back to the hospital the next day and thought I
Mhm.
would just mention it. And as soon as we came in, the nurses looked at me and said, your son is fine, but you need to go to the ER. We can tell by looking at you that something isn't right. And I said, well, oh no,
Mm.
it's just that I had trouble breathing last night. They said, yeah, we got it. You need to go to the ER. So long story short, that led to me meeting Dr. Ellis, who is my current physician still. And
Okay.
lots of tests were run. They couldn't figure out what was going on that made it hard for me to breathe. But after a month-long stay in the hospital, we finally determined that what was called mixed connective tissue disease as a young teen was
Mhm.
actually lupus. So I
Oh.
received a diagnosis of lupus while I was in the ER and my son was in NICU. So my husband and I got to be very popular in that hospital. The nurses in NICU and the nurses in the ER and everyone pretty much knew my son, my husband, and myself. And they figured it out because the only thing that I responded to was heparin, a blood thinner. That was the only
Hmm.
thing that kind of settled my breathing and allowed me to just kind of be. So that's important, because after we got that and figured all of that out, I was finally able to go home. And later
So
on,
wait, let me interrupt here. You are officially in the hospital giving birth to your son. He is premature. He's in the NICU. The doctors are like, wait, we know we're here to care for the baby, but while we have this whole family here together celebrating the birth of the baby, because at least he was able to be here on this earth. Thank God. He had to go into NICU, but able to survive and thrive enough to be able to ultimately come home. But you, on the other hand, now they're finding out about a diagnosis that you never even knew existed, lupus.
Never even knew
And
existed.
had you not been in this situation, you still wouldn't necessarily know, right?
You're absolutely right. That's exactly right. I would not have known.
Okay, so lupus is the diagnosis. What do they do to help get you better? Which lupus is I need to look it up, but I don't know. Is there even a cure for lupus?
There are medications that they've come forth with now, actually.
Okay.
And for some people, it's a very extreme disorder. It's an autoimmune disorder. And basically, with autoimmune disorders, it means that the body is kind of fighting itself.
Yeah.
It's seeing part of itself as an invader. So it's a very interesting phenomenon. And
it's a chronic disease with no cure, is what it says here on the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. And it's hard to diagnose because many people have symptoms that are mistaken for other things. So now with you, go ahead. What happened?
That's exactly right. I'm glad you brought that up. That's important too. That's why the first doctor called it mixed connective tissue disease, because at my young age, that's what it appeared to be, which is kind of more of a broad categorization of autoimmune disorders. They became more specific and targeted when I actually came to the hospital after giving birth to my son and finding that I couldn't breathe. It became a little bit more easy to diagnose. But you're right, lupus mimics a lot of different disorders, so it's often hard to diagnose. So yes, there we are in the hospital. We received this diagnosis. We're in there for a while. They're making sure they keep me on heparin for a while. Their answer was, let's just keep some blood thinners going because your body responded well to that. And we'll just watch very carefully. So I was in the doctor's office frequently. This was a big deal for me, as you pointed out, because I'd never been sick before or had any kind of diagnosis or anything. So it was very odd for me to even have to be in a hospital or even have to see a doctor regularly. Very odd. But we went home. We celebrated the birth of our first son. Everything went well. Then we had our second son, Corey. And that birth was normal, but everybody was watching me like a hawk just to make sure that everything went well. So that went very well. And we went forward to even have our daughter a few years later. So we have our 3 children, and
let me make sure, let me pull this up and see if this is, please tell me this is the family, because I want to.
This is the family. Yes. It's
a
like,
say this is the family.
Thank you very much. At least we have a visual for everyone. So the tall young man in the red shirt in the back is my oldest son, Cam. My husband, Keith, is in the gray on the left. There I am in the middle. Our daughter, Carisi, on the left of me. And there's our son, Corey, in the front in the white shirt.
Excellent. I pat myself on the back, right?
Yes, so thank you.
Your family comes along. You have these 3 beautiful children God has blessed you with. And then what happens from there? Some things start to turn around in your family unit.
Yes, things turn around. The event that kind of started everything was me learning that our youngest son, Corey, had a diagnosis of autism. That was the actual start of everything for me. Because once that happened, I went into hypervigilant mode. I was determined to have him everywhere that he could get help. So I literally combed the city of Charlotte and the surrounding areas, finding speech language therapists, developmental pediatricians, everyone. I wanted to know more about this so that I could help him. And I went in. I just did. We were busy every single day, seeing a specialist, speaking to other parents. It just became a quest for me because I didn't understand what the diagnosis meant. And I needed to, so that I could properly not only mother him, but educate him and be his advocate. So I went. Now it was a wonderful turn of events because I found out so much information, connected with so many knowledgeable people, and I was able to get Corey so many wonderful resources. So for him, it really did benefit We were able to see him land in a school program that worked for him. He was able to connect with therapists, and it was just a wonderful journey as far as that was concerned. The problem is that I went in so hard that I began to see my health suffer. That's where everything actually started. I didn't balance it well. I I was at it every single day, hour after hour. If I wasn't out somewhere with him, I was reading about it and I was trying to figure out what to do. And I went in too hard. So the way it showed in my body is that my kidneys began to fail. And I noticed my energy lag. I knew something wasn't right because I told myself for a while, it's just that I'm tired because I'm moving around so much, making sure I'm available for all the kids, making sure I'm supporting my husband with his business, continuing my writing. I just figured that that's what was going on. Add to that, I decided that it was time to become a grad student. I wanted to help other parents of children diagnosed with special healthcare needs by providing counseling. So I became a student and thought that this would be my way of giving back. So I was doing all the things. I was studying for my graduate degree and volunteering, and it was just eventually something to give. It was a lot. Something had to give.
Well, this is where, as we're talking about how people balance different aspects of their lives, what you've had to overcome to become who you are at this phase of your journey. My thing is, we as women and as mothers and entrepreneurs and grad students and wearing all of these hats, you said that this took a physical toll on your body. What advice would you give other women that are tuning in today, or other just people that are tuning in that wear 50 different hats, to be able to balance their lives just a little bit more easily or smoothly, given what some of the outcomes can be physically in our bodies? Any advice?
I would absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Excuse me for interrupting you. I absolutely do. I strongly suggest to anyone watching, just as I do to any of the other parents that I currently work with, I strongly suggest you remember yourself. And that sounds so simple. Often when you say those words, it's like, of course, how would I not be able to do that? But when you're in the middle of focusing on someone you love and caring for someone you love, it becomes very easy to put yourself on the back burner. And you can be doing it without even realizing it. Your focus automatically goes to what you think is most important. And where my son was at that time, making sure that he had the education that he needed, that he was getting the support that he needed, was priority to me. So you have to remember yourself. It's important to take breaks. It's important to make sure that you have space in your schedule, literally just for you, even if that's 5 or 10 minutes. It has to be intentional and it has to be consistent. And that is where I failed. I did not make sure that I remembered myself. So I urge others to please do that.
So as a result, you feel that your body took a turn for the worse. And what happened with your kidneys? And break that down some for us.
I went to see, I was referred to a nephrologist. And when I got there, he explained to me that my kidneys were functioning at 20%. 20%. Actually, let me run that back. I did go and speak with a nephrologist at that time who said my kidney function was low. He prescribed a medication and said, let's see if we can kind of get this built back. Over time, what happened was my kidneys did not build back. Instead, if we fast forward just a little bit, what actually happened is I wound up being rushed to the emergency room one spring afternoon. I was depleted. I was drained. I couldn't go anymore. And I was experiencing what seemed like a hemorrhaging episode, actually.
Internally?
Well, actually, externally. To be candid, if instead of it appearing as a normal menstrual cycle might, this was something completely different. It was a hemorrhaging episode where I was losing lots of blood. And I had to be rushed to the emergency room nearby. Okay. And eventually we wound up in the hands of some nephrologists who said, listen, your kidneys are functioning at 20%. We're going to have to recommend dialysis. And not only are we recommending dialysis, we're recommending emergency dialysis immediately, because we need to remove the toxins that are coming from inside your blood now. And when I say that it felt as if someone had snatched the rug out from underneath me. That puts it mildly. I
Yeah.
was just, my head was spinning.
Huh.
I couldn't think. I was sitting there holding my husband's hand, and all I could do was cry. I had nothing else. Even now, I'm trying to find words to explain how I feel. And after all of these years, I still cannot. It was just as if my world had just been shattered.
And
And
this led not only to emergency dialysis, but this led to something even more significant than that. So please tell us what ultimately transpired in order for you to survive.
along the road, so many things happened, Kim. I began emergency dialysis, and then eventually I was assigned to a dialysis center. That led to several different, in my case, and I do want to pause here. I want to say that when I share my story, I'm careful to let other people know that dialysis is a life saving technique for many people. So I never mean to portray it in such a way that it sounds scary or disorienting. It's just for me, because it was nothing that was in the books. It
Right.
was a scary and daunting experience, but I
Right.
need to preface it by saying that. But for me, it did lead down a road that led to multiple hospitalizations, including an open heart surgery when I had an infected dialysis tube.
Oh my gosh.
It was one thing after another thing, after another thing. This coming again to a young woman who's never even had as much as a common cold on a regular basis.
So you went from being diagnosed with lupus to being told that you have a son that is autistic. So you started really making that your focus, then to ultimately finding out that you have kidney low
Failure.
kidney function, kidney failure to the point where you have to start dialysis. And ultimately, you became a recipient of something, right?
Yes, exactly. 5 years on dialysis after the multiple hospitalizations and procedures. I moved from doing dialysis in a center to doing it at home, which was a lot better for me. Ultimately, I signed up for the kidney transplant list. And in November of 2011, I received my kidney transplant.
What year was that again?
That was in 2011.
2011, you became a kidney transplant recipient.
Yes, I did.
And thank God that that was favorable and you are here today.
Yes.
You're here
Yes. Not
today.
only was it favorable, this was the only time I was not embarrassed to have been told that I urinated in public, because as soon as they connected the kidney, the doctors were so excited. They said, "You began urinating on the operating table, and this is a good thing." So my kidney is doing well. I am so very grateful. And I don't even have words to thank God enough for blessing me with a second chance at life, because that's exactly what this is.
Wow. And you know what? Having a second chance at life, it changes your philosophy as to how you even view life.
Yes.
What has that done for you being a kidney transplant recipient and having this second lease on life?
It's done so many things. One of the things it definitely did in hindsight is it let me see, for me, I abandoned my faith at that
Mm.
time. I was telling myself that everything was up to me. When it came to my son, when it came to my health, I truly thought that it was up to me to figure everything out and to
Mhm.
have all of the answers. And all that did was put additional stress on me. It put additional
Mm.
pressure on me. And that explains a lot about why I was running the way I was running. I just kind of kicked God out of the driver's seat and took it over myself. And I thought that I
Mm.
could handle it all. And
Wow.
I couldn't. So for me, one of the things that it taught me is that surrender is not the nasty word that I thought it was. It was a word that I avoided at all costs because I wanted to be in control.
Mhm.
And it taught me that the way to live this life is to accept that we can surrender and that all things can actually fall into place for us. It's not
Mm.
up to us to figure it all out. We can actually allow ourselves to surrender, to let go, and that it can turn out just fine.
Wow. And I'm grateful that you said that, just surrendering. How do we surrender in the midst of trials and tribulations and storms and things that we just get sideswiped by, we don't expect to happen in our lives? And I'm not going to take a commercial break right now because I want to make sure that I hear something else that happened in your journey as well. regarding your precious son. I know we're going to transition to the second half of the show, but this is your husband, right?
This is my husband, Keith.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm like, please tell me this is not like the brother or the uncle or I don't want to bounce my own photos, right? Okay. So
Yes.
you've been
This is
you've
my
been
husband,
married.
Keith.
You've been married to him for how long?
Oh, we've been married for almost 30 years now in July.
30
Yes. And
years. He's been
yes.
on a significant journey with you.
Oh my God.
30 years. What's his name?
His name is Keith. Keith.
Keith. Thank you, Keith, for being a wonderful husband and father and just going on this journey called life with Kandace. And this picture again speaks volumes because one of the young people in this picture, I want you to share some moments about him as his life is now being celebrated somewhere else. So talk to us, please.
Yes. This portion of our discussion is about our son Corey, there in the white shirt. Our Corey was born and shortly thereafter diagnosed with autism. And again, that became the focus of all of our family's life. There he is, there in the headphones. Our Corey was such an inspiration to us all. Always wearing that smile that you see, always ready to share a laugh, a dance, to sing a song. So with that diagnosis of autism, as Corey entered puberty, we had an additional diagnosis of epilepsy that came on board, and he began having seizure activity. That was the year after I had my kidney transplant. So we had that to contend with. Through it all, Corey wearing that same smile, ready to work on all of his goals and just be present for us. So we walked through that journey with our Corey, and there's so many things I can say. In my advocacy for him, after he came out of school, which he did well in, I was able to ensure that he received funding to have a personal assistant, spend his days out in the community working on goals that my wonderful husband Keith and I came out with for him. He had incredible computer skill. He was able to do anything related to IT. So he had a job at a nonprofit where he oversaw database management. He was also a creative, so he got into painting and had a space at the Charlotte Art League, as well as the new VAPA Center. A man of many talents. What an amazing young man. Later on down the road, one of the anti-epilepsy drugs that Corey took resulted in a change in his body. And he eventually developed kidney disease of his own. That was quite a journey because I can't even articulate how disappointing and saddening that was for me, having walked that road myself. Right. So I took a moment in that doctor's office to take a deep breath, shed a few tears, and tell the doctor, okay, let's roll up our sleeves. What do we have to do? Right. So we walked that journey with our Corey, and he did so well for so long. But Corey eventually did gain his wings in November of 2022. So in that young man's honor, I continue to wear this smile, and we continue to connect with other parents of children diagnosed with special healthcare needs to help them pay attention to their loved ones when there are certain signs that show themselves, help them to allow them to live their lives the way that they want, to follow their desires, let them know that they actually are our guides on this path of life, and to trust that. And we've also I volunteer with an organization called Trusted Parents here in Charlotte. It's an amazing organization led by a wonderful woman named Nakia Bai, who also has a son diagnosed with autism, who's one of Corey's friends. And among the amazing things that she does, she hosts an annual summer camp here in Charlotte at Queen's University. And she's expanded it to include a program called Camp Explore, where young adults diagnosed with special healthcare needs who often don't get the services that they start out with as children. This camp provides them not only a summer camp experience, but the opportunity to do what our Corey did so well with his personal assistant, whose name I have to say, Marco, because Corey was always talking about Marco. This allows these young adults to learn life skills. Corey would go out every day and learn goals like handling money, being able to interact with other people, working a job. And this camp does that very same thing for other young adults. So we started a scholarship fund. It was actually Nakia's thought to do this in Corey's honor, and my husband and I are working on it with her. So now there's a Corey's Camper Scholarship Fund to help fund the enrollment of that camp for a young adult diagnosed with a special healthcare need so that they too can enjoy pursuing and learning adult skills while pursuing the goals that they have for themselves. And it's just, I can't be more proud of that. I really can't. There's so many things that we plan to do in our Corey's honor, but this was a perfect first step because it allows them to do exactly what our Corey did.
Wow, there is so much that you just shared that gives us such hope and inspiration. Even just his face, there's no way to create. There's no way to ever recreate what he's showing right there in that image. To me, that's just like saying, keep hope alive, everybody.
Yeah.
That's what that picture is like. Look, life.
I have to tell you, you have it, Kim. And so many people have said that very same thing, that picture. And you're so right. That picture tells you exactly who our Corey was and is.
Yes.
We still feel that same smile. I promise you. I see him in my dreams. I call them visits instead of dreams. I feel the warmth of that smile whenever I see it. I promise you, it's more than just looking at that picture. I feel it. And what I know is that it has to be true because even people who never had a chance to meet Corey in his physical body say the very same thing when they see his pictures and his smile. This young man, one of his goals every day was to go out to lunch with Marco. Firehouse Subs, Firebirds, and what was the other place? Oh, there was a third one. But he would go into that restaurant every day and pay for his lunch. The entire staff would come forward to greet him just to get a glimpse of that smile. I mean, it's just amazing the effect that he had on other people and still does to this day. So I cannot be more honored to have served as mother to such a beautiful spirit, such an incredible spirit. He truly has taught me so very much that I'll never be able to put in words in this hour format. But that I'm working on for my next book. I mean, life-changing. I'm just so grateful to God for this being having been in my life and that I can still feel his presence is just a gift. We have notes written around the house that he's left us. And one of them that I'm going to have framed says, "Get to the end."
Wow.
Somebody
type that. Get to the end.
Get to the end.
To the end. Corey A. Grant.
Yes.
Let's get to the end. That right there is something that we can all, you talk about New Year's resolutions, different commitments and things that we make in life. Let's all get to the end. Yes. Corey A. Grant. Make sure you quote that Corey A. Grant said that. And if you can screenshot this image, make sure you screenshot it and give kudos and credits where it's due. Let's all get to the end. And the end looks different for everybody. But for me, the end is getting to heaven. And I'll personally get to see Corey A. Grant and my son, Gabriel Michael Jacobs again. And I believe that God is not a man that he should lie. So if he says that he's gone to prepare a place for us, that we can reunite with our loved ones, then I am crazy enough to believe that we will reunite with our loved ones one day.
That's right.
So thank you so much for sharing your son Corey with us, his journey. And thank you for choosing as a mother, because I know I say this personally, for staying here with your remaining children on this earth. Thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. That's a choice, believe it or not, everybody. Wow. Okay. You can come back anytime, and you can even be one of our Freestyle Friday experts. We have what we call Freestyle Friday experts, and you can talk about Corey, you could talk about grief, you could talk about your stories, whatever will inspire people to take action. Camille, she's a blind young lady that is actually our vision expert. She said, I am in tears. This story is heartbreakingly beautiful. Kandace reminds me so much of my mother and her advocacy for me as a child. Corey sounds like a beautiful soul. Put some other quick comments up, and then we're going to pull in our next guest. Get to the End by Corey A. Grant. Yes. Any other comments? That's my mom. Get to the end. Get to the end. Corey is smiling and keeping hope alive in others. My mom said, may God continue to bless you and your family. I saw a comment from someone else earlier. let's see. Lots of comments have been coming in, lots of them. Wow, congratulations. What a testimony when you were talking about your story of kidney transplant. Someone said your book title was beautiful, Be Willing. Blessed with the gift of Corey. Thanks for sharing with him with us today. Tears are falling. All right, everybody. We're going to, wow. Okay. All right. Let me share with you how you can stay connected with Kandace. Kandace, tell them how they can stay connected with you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much for your comments and for your sharing the energy with our Corey. Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at author Kandace Grant. Also at Self Care Circle for Caregivers, where I'm giving tips and strategies and just positivity to other caregivers on Instagram. I also have a small page, about.me / Kandace Grant. You can find that just to give more information about me. And you can email me at authorcandacegrant.write.me.
All right. Those are ways to stay connected with Kandace. You definitely want to stay connected with this woman who has been on this amazing journey, still here to share her love and her light with everyone across the world, and is eager to connect with people like yourself. So make sure you do that. I'm going to pull you in, Tanny Swan, if I can, for a moment. Tanny, how are you?
I'm good, Kandace. And
Hi,
Kim,
Tanny.
thank you for having me.
You get a chance to obviously share in a special bond with Kandace because you've gotten to know her personally through some of your writing together collaboratively in an anthology, which is Mama's Stories, Gifts from Our Mothers. And so I'm so glad to have you here today. Very glad. And
I'm honored to be here. This was a wonderful opportunity. I so appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk about the story and to be here with Kandace as one of my co-authors.
I'm so grateful.
So happy.
So glad you're here. Let me take a moment to let you all know about Tanny Swan. She is a native of Chicago and has also called Michigan, Georgia, and Iowa her home. So she's been around the block a little bit here in a great way, touring some of the United States. She is a high school English teacher for over 20 years, and she has helped hundreds of students discover their love for literature and writing. She has written personal essays, Girl Forgotten, and obviously a contributing author to Mama Stories, Gifts from Our Mothers. And she is cheered on by her husband, Cliff, and their two daughters, Sydney and Nia. So I am so honored to have you here with us today, Tanny Swan. Thank you for joining us this second half.
Thank you again, Kim. I'm excited to be here and to talk about Mama Stories. I just want to take a minute and just say a prayer. Thanks for Kandace for sharing her story. She and I just became friends through this project, and I really did not know much of what her story entails, with the exception of the story of her mother through Mama Stories. But Kandace, you just to have a beautiful soul. I'm so glad our paths have crossed.
I am too.
Thank you so much, Tanny. That means so much. I'm so excited to get to know more about you, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to know you thus far. Thank you.
Well, one thing I know about Tanny is she's a soror, so
Happy Founders Day coming up. Yes.
So
well, happy Founders Day, upcoming Founders Day to you both.
Thank you. All right, so Tanny, you have chosen to be a part of this anthology, which is spearheaded by Angela Hagler, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
And she's the visionary behind the anthology Mama's Stories. And I'm gonna put the image up as well. But I want to make sure that I hear what made you become a part of that particular anthology, Tanny.
Well, it all started, I remember Angela and I, we go way back to graduate school. We both attended Iowa State University, and Angela is also a soror, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And so, so I remember she posted just a post of, anyone who was interested in being a part of a writing group where she would help you develop your story, and we would possibly be working towards completing an anthology where we would be able to give honor to our mothers. Some of us, our mothers are still here. Others, moms had passed away. And I remember I was sitting at my desk at work and I saw that email and I was thinking to myself that I wanted to do more than just think about writing something that would reach other people. I wanted to actually write something that would get on paper and other people would see, you know. So I joined the project, and it's been a wonderful experience to see it go from just an idea to what I honestly, yesterday, I pulled my books out of the mailbox yesterday. I was waiting on Amazon to ship me my author copies because other people had received theirs, and I'm like, where are my copies? Where are my copies? So
You're like, I need my stuff.
Right. So they were in a lockbox, which was assigned to a different person. So I had to get that cleared up. And once I did, just opening them and finally seeing everything that the book offers and seeing, you know, my name on print, my story in print, and more importantly, the story of my mother in print. That I'm warmed all over by it. I just really hope that all the stories touch those that read it. So that's kind of how I became involved in the story project.
Well, that's exciting to know. Now, you're in your particular chapter. What is the thrust of it? Without, you know, if Angela was here, she'd be like, "Girl, don't tell them everything. Make them encourage them to purchase the book." So, what is your chapter about without revealing too much?
Sure. So my chapter is entitled "Girl Forgotten," and the title it has two meanings. One meaning is not the focus of it, which is you think girl forgotten, you think about a girl that has been forgotten. But my story is about my struggles with my memory and remembering my childhood and remembering my lots of incidences and lots of occurrences and events that have happened to me. There is no physiological or physical reason why some things I just don't remember, except for some of them are kind of based in maybe some trauma. And so it wasn't until I finally had a chance to start, you know, seeking therapy, and I sat down with my therapist and we got to the bottom of it. And he said, you know, don't worry about why you can't remember, because I noticed that you're remembering more and more the more you talk about your story. So that was life-changing for me, because I'm the kind of person that I keep things to myself. I write stories and I close them in a notebook and put them over here. But I took a chance and I just decided to share my story. And it's about my relationship with my mother. And she's beautiful. She's with me. She's 78 years old. And it's about how we grew together. She was a single mother and I was her only child. And that combination is not very common. Oftentimes there are siblings or there's a father figure. But it's about moving past a particular lens that we might create for ourselves about our lives, and telling ourselves that maybe we're seeing things through smudged lenses, and that maybe we need to clean our glasses and see things for what they really are, so that we can really be true to who we are and appreciate our experiences and how they've helped us grow.
So do you think that the therapy has helped you get more clarity and more focus and understanding some of the things you've forgotten?
Absolutely. First of all, I'll just say his first name. My therapist, I call him my guy, Jeff, and he is amazing. He really has helped me so much. In fact, I don't know if I have time. I found a small portion of my story.
I'm 100%, girlfriend. You here for the second half of the Kim Jacobs show. You have full reign.
I got time today. I got time.
Yes. Go ahead and share a piece of your story, please.
Okay. So this is from my story, Girl Forgotten, and it ties into what I was just talking about, the value of therapy and the value of being able to see your life from a perspective other than pain or abandonment, you know? And so it goes like this. It goes, around 3 years ago, during my first appointment with my therapist, I sat on his couch and cried throughout my entire 50-minute session. It wasn't until the third meeting that we were able to identify a starting place for my healing. He moved his yellow legal pad between the two of us and suggested I give a name to the swarm of bees that stung me each morning, leaving me doubled over in daily anxiety attacks. My father, my mother, the inherited dark clouds from both of them. It's okay to be angry, he said. You can feel anger and love simultaneously. It's not one or the other. There was something cathartic about being given permission to own my feelings. This immersed love in my heart towards the only person that has consistently been in my life from my very first breath. I now know that my love for my mother is not diminished by my regrets about my childhood, especially the parts that are lost somewhere in my adult mind. I can embrace anger as a real emotion without hating myself, without feeling that I have betrayed my mother in some way. More than anything, I can sink into the very clear memory that my mother always did the very best she could for me, mostly alone, and always with the one goal of protection. Even then, I knew that we were protecting and saving each other as we moved through life together.
Wow. You had to read that because now that opens up the thought of what was going on. And I mean, you're not going to answer this right now, but what was going on with your mom and your dad, because you love your mom so much, clearly, and you're an intricate part of her life, 78 years old now, and you all being the only child and all of these things. But there were some things that happened in your backstory that's hopefully going to be revealed in that book, right?
Well, not much, because the focus is on my mother. And so what I can say is that
so the dad part. Okay, go ahead. Not you ain't talking about now. See now this right here, this right here might be the controversy part. You ain't talking about the daddy and the mama stories. So
well, I mean, to be honest with you, you know, that the part about my mama's story is that it has to do with how she came to be a single mother and how she used her own triumphs and tragedies to raise me. And so my father was not a part of my life. You could have put a picture in front of me, or he could have walked in front of me before the age of 21, and I would never have recognized him. Just didn't know who he was, which was really painful for me, because I seem to have befriended women that had the best relationships with their fathers. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have that, but I always have my mom. But, you know, the story is about her raising me without any help. Her own mother passed away 2 years before I was born. She did not know her father. Therefore, with my father not in the picture, I grew up without grandparents. Because she did not know her father, talk about generational curses, right? Because she did not know her father, she did not know any siblings. So I grew up without aunts and uncles. So I did, and there's a portion of my story where I talk about how I, you know, had a host of people that were family, like distant cousins and such, and people that loved me. I loved them because they loved me.
Right.
So I think that even now, I love my family. I love all my family. And I've since reconnected with some of my aunts and cousins.
Oh, good. So now you know the family, some of the families.
Absolutely. And that's been amazing. But there is so much strength in perspective. Again, instead of focusing what I did not have, which was a father figure, or what I did not have, which was, you know, a two-person
household.
Right. I, you know, once I took the smudge glasses off, I was able to see I have tenfold of that. And so my story is about revelation and about me realizing that, and about honoring everything that my mother did to make me who I am, and, you know, to win. Because in all of her struggles, I say to everyone, my mother still won, and she still wins.
And she's still yet here with you to be able to celebrate life and the rest of life's journey together. I'm really happy that you shared that. Kandace, tell us a little bit about your chapter as well, and what people can expect when they're reading it.
Oh, first I have to say, Tanya, that was beautiful. I remember us reviewing pieces of our work together, but that was just such a beautiful summation of what you've written about your mother. Just beautiful.
That's incredible. Okay.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it.
You know what? Before you tell me, you know what? I don't have those pictures in here yet, but let me just put up here how you can definitely get a copy of the book from Tanny Swan. How do they get a copy of the book from you, Tanny?
So the way they get a copy of the book from me is all they have to do is go to Instagram. I love it if they would be friends with me on Instagram, and my handle is @TannySwanWrites, and there's a link tree there, and they can see everything you need to know. My bio is there. The link to order their signed copy through PayPal is there, and I have extra copies, and I will be elated and overjoyed to send copies out to anyone that orders that wants an autographed copy of the book from me. It is also on Amazon, and so, but that's not a signed copy for me. If that's something that is important to you, I want it to be important to you. I have some freebies I'm sending out along with my book, so that's how you get it. So I'm at Tanny Swan Writes, and I'm also on Facebook at Tanny Swan Writes.
Y'all make sure you go and take care of that today. Get it from Tanny Swan. If you want to go to Tanny Swan Writes on Instagram, and she has her link tree there as well. She'll send you a signed autographed copy of the book. So, all right. So talk to us, Kandace, about your chapter in the book.
My chapter in the book is called A Love Beyond, which I think is a perfect summation of what my experience with my mother has been. My mother was my first friend, my first teacher, and my biggest role model. And she made her transition into heaven in December of 2020. So what's interesting about all of this is that Angela announced this project a few months after my mother had made her transition into heaven. So when I saw, like Tanny, when I saw that she was looking for authors or kind of had this ad out there she is. There's Angela. Yes.
There's Angela. I want to make sure we acknowledge the visionary behind this anthology. Beautiful. Angela Hagler. Is that correct?
That's exactly right.
Angela Hagler, visionary behind Mama's Story. She looked a whole trip too. Like she running some things, gifts from our mothers. I just want to acknowledge her today as well. Thank you for allowing God to put that in your spirit, Angela, to do this anthology. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much for bringing that picture forward. Yes, it was wonderful. Her kind of putting out the call or kind of stating that she was beginning this project came at the right and perfect time. I'll never forget me saying to her, I think I'd be interested in learning more about this. It turned out to be such a therapeutic process for me as I was grieving my mother having made her transition. The exercises that Angela had us do together as a community kind of pulled out the pieces of the story that I wanted to write. And it was just incredible to be able to connect with other women, particularly other African-American women who were there to celebrate their mothers and to have candid discussions about what worked, what didn't work, what was joyful, what might have been a little confusing. It was a beautiful space to be able not only to grieve, but to celebrate our mothers. And so the whole process was something that I continue to celebrate and talk to people about. My chapter is called A Love Beyond. And without giving too much away, it was important because I got to see my mother in a dream the night that she actually made her transition. It was incredible. It was incredible. So I don't want to give too much away, but that's what made the title so real for me. And just to say a word or two about my mom, she was a very poised, very, in public anyway, very shy, very demure woman. And I greatly admired that about her. It mattered to her that my brother and I value education as much as she did. She grew up in the segregated South in Columbia, South Carolina, and it was very tight-knit, not very wealthy, but very tight-knit, close community. Right. And all of the elders in that community pushed the children to reach that next level. It mattered to all of them that they do well. It was a true village, and she embodied that in her spirit. Education was her priority. She became an educator. And it mattered to her that children do well so that they could reach whatever goals it was they wanted in life. Beyond that, she was also an avid history buff. She knew everything about the history, particularly African-American history. And she made it so that my brother and I made that a priority for us as well. It mattered to her that we be blessed and that we know to celebrate everything that God made us to be. And that included standing on the shoulders of our ancestors who came before us. So she was quite a woman. We could get in more trouble in our house for saying something derogatory about Black people than we could about saying curse words. And that's real talk.
That's funny. Oh, y'all gonna shut that down.
Yes, absolutely. Shut that down. Absolutely. So we grew to know to value ourselves. It was an amazing experience just having her as my mother. There's so much I could say, but generous, beautiful, thoughtful woman. And I'll say this too, it's important because she wanted me to know all of her. She was very candid with me as I got to be a young woman. She shared the things that she was proud of about her life and the things that she wasn't so proud of, because she wanted me to learn from her and to do better, is what she would always say. Learn from me and do better. So everything that you see about me is because my mother put it there. And I don't have the words to express my gratitude to her. So this is the first of my tributes to her.
Oh, I love this. This is just like, y'all are well representing mama stories, just so you know. Let's see. Camille Richardson said, is this book on Audible?
Yes. Well, Audible. I know that there is an audio book on Amazon.
Yes, yes, it's on Audible. It may not be on the Audible app, but it is an audio download, which I think whenever I get Amazon Audio, that is Audible, and what I think.
Yes.
So
yes, and I will add that it is when we released the audiobook on our particular launch date, it was the #1 release for that day. So we're able to say that we're best-selling authors, Kandace.
That's exactly.
So these are the authors, and I can't read that cursive writing even with my glasses on, but they are beautiful women with stories from their mamas and about their moms, things that they've learned. And you see Angela Hagler over there as the visionary. You want to get a copy of this book. I see a lot of comments coming in. Mackenzie, if you could pop some of those up, just flood the thing with comments. So very proud of you. Tanny Swan writes, she is talented, is what Antoinette says. Melody says, Tanny Swan writes, so happy for you. Tanny Swan writes, okay. Yes, congratulations, Antoinette says. Let's see. Sharon says, Tanny Swan, we love you. Thanks for sharing your stories, ladies. Melody says, Sheila Hill, who is also a podcast host, you definitely want to connect with her. She has some great content. She put some purple hearts. Who else? Lots of comments have come in. Yes, congratulations. God bless you all for honoring your mothers. I honor my mother, who is in her 70s, and she is with me frequently, and it is a dream come true. I did not know that I would have her in my adult life. I thought I would be, once I went to college, really would be her in Virginia, me in Charlotte, North Carolina. Who knew, but God has a way of reuniting us in a great way. I never lost touch with my mom. My mom's been my best friend my whole life, and she's always made me believe that I could be anything that I put my mind to, and even in pageants and you name it, anything I've ever been. I was senior class president in high school, senior class president at James Madison University. My mom is my most admired person in my life. Okay. I love being my mom's daughter. Dream come true, child, mom. Okay. Let me keep it going. Let me keep it going about y'all. Let's see. How can people get the book from you?
They can get the book from me on Instagram, as you mentioned earlier, at author Kandace Grant. You can also get a copy from me if you follow me on Facebook. I'm also there at Kandace Grant. That would be, and there you are. Also, if you wanted to reach out to me personally, author Kandace Grant at writeme.com. I would very much appreciate hearing from you. And yes, I'm happy to send an autographed copy your way.
All right. Now, please tell us who this lovely lady is. I'm not closing the show out.
So that's a fun. It's one of my favorite, candid pictures of me and my mom. So one of our favorite things to do when we hang out is to go eat. She loves Red Lobster, but she also loves Culver's. So that's us enjoying milkshakes at Culver's. And that's it. So we were just having a good time. And I was like, Mom, let's take a selfie. So this is my mom. This is my mom. Yellow is her favorite color. Everyone who knows Miss Patricia Ann Swanigan knows that she loves her yellow. And that's her standing in front of DuSable High School, which is where most of her memories, her best memories, are about being walking down the hallways of DuSable, meeting her first love, singing in a little amateur group on the back steps of the school. So I took her back there and helped recharge her memory. And we walked the halls again, and she was so happy to be standing there. So I had that picture blown up for her. It was a Christmas present for her. So that's me and my oldest daughter next to me, Nia, who is a senior at A&T. And that's my mama. And then that is my youngest daughter, Sydney, who is a sophomore at Winston-Salem. And Well, everyone always says, why doesn't Sydney have on that shirt? Because Sydney said, I don't want to wear that shirt today. Okay. But yes,
Sydney is her own person. She like, I don't care.
she's her own person.
We do what I want to do. All right. All right. So let me take that. That's just awesome. I'm quite proud. Oh, I love you, Kim. Okay, I love you too, mommy. I'm gonna get some brownie points later, right? Let's see. And then I have these two pictures, and tell me if I'm accurate on this. I believe this is somebody else very special to you.
Oh, this is my mother-in-law, actually.
That's your mother-in-law, and I found a picture of this.
And there's my mom. It's appropriate that you brought them both up because my mother-in-law is my second mother. Truly.
Aww.
I don't say that. A lot of people have issues with their in-laws. This is my mommy too. So I'm very happy that you brought her into the room.
Oh, I'm so glad. And then this is
my mom. My mom and my mother-in-law actually got to be quite close. So that was actually appropriate. This is my mom. And my mom did not like taking pictures at all. It was always a struggle getting her to get before the camera. But I love this picture because this is actually the outfit she had on when I had the dream of her the day after she made her transition into heaven. She had this very outfit on and looked exactly as we see her here. So yes, this is perfectly appropriate. And this is my mama.
Aw, everybody, listen, today's episode has been nothing short of, in my opinion, a roller coaster ride. It's been such an emotion-filled episode and one of inspiration. Right now, you had the love of passion, and we're going to close out here very soon, but you had the love and passion for teaching, Tanny. For over 20 years, you've been a teacher. Just talk to us briefly about your love of education and helping hundreds of other children become passionate about literacy and writing in particular.
Well,
literature.
Sure. Yeah, I was an English language arts teacher for 23 years. I taught 4 years at the college level, but preferred the high school kids. I've taught everything from freshmen to seniors. And I've loved teaching, but I want to be honest with you, Kim. It is not, in many instances, it is not the same as it was before. So I know that I probably speak on behalf of a lot of my teacher educator friends when I say that it is harder than it looks. I'm not sure that people really understand the sacrifices and just the change of the turn of education, particularly since COVID. There's just a shift, which has made the field very, very difficult to manage. However, there are still so many committed, wonderful, talented teachers that are still a part of the teaching world. And it's so important because what is our world without teachers? We saw that with COVID when the teachers, schools closed and everyone was saying, where are the kids going to go?
Right.
So yes, but I loved it. I'm not in the classroom anymore, but I have such great memories. I've met so many wonderful students. One of my students was on here. She chatted. She was one of the comments.
Oh, and that's when you know you've made a tremendous impact in someone's life. That's so right now, as we prepare for our closing comment here, what's next with you, Tanny? What else is there that you'd like to share? Maybe you didn't get to share throughout the episode that you want people to know.
Well, I think that I really want people to buy a copy of Mama Stories, either from their favorite co-author or from Amazon, because we really want to embrace all of the authors, and all of the stories are absolutely amazing. For me personally, I am finished writing novel number 1. It is ready to go to the editor, but I don't know why I can't let it go. Maybe now I can. Maybe now is the moment for me to do so. But it's been in my hands. It's finished. I keep going back to it, but it is slated to hopefully be released. This is my year. 2024 is my year to finally release my debut novel.
You're going to release your debut novel. We're going to hold you accountable. We want you to come back on the show and talk about it this year. So it has to happen.
I need that. Thank you.
Yes, come back and make that possible so that we can help launch it and people can support that as well.
Thank you.
Camille said, what did Camille say? I saw a comment that you popped up. She said her mother transitioned in July of 2021, and she also has the honor of writing a chapter about her in an anthology a few months ago after she passed. So you all go and check out Camille Richardson. She's one of our Freestyle Friday experts. She's also in a book with 8 individuals that are blind, all women that are blind, and it's Heal to Write. So definitely make sure you all check out her book as well. The right, yeah. I mean, I may not have said the title right, but I know it's a great book because I have it and I read it. Okay, hundreds more, like thousands. Clifford said, you've helped thousands, Tanny.
That's my husband correcting me.
You know your husband, he's trying to get some brownie points. He's like, he's like, baby, it's thousands. It's not no hundreds.
Right. Thank you, babe.
You got some brownie points, Clifford. All right. All right, everybody. Go back and also make sure you get a copy of Be Willing, which is How to Live an Affirmative and Empowered Life Right Now. Kandace Grant, when you reach out to her, you'll be able to get both of the books from her as well. What's your closing comment, Kandace?
I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to be here with you, here with Tanny. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have been a part of the Mama Stories Project. And I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful that this Be Willing philosophy that God gave me has carried me through all of those storms to be here with you today. And I'm grateful to be able to share it with other people. I'm just in gratitude. So that's what I have to say.
Well, I'm grateful that all of you all were here today. The 2 of you were here today. And I said all because all of the other anthology people that are on the book. And I think that any of them that are interested in coming on and sharing some of their story, feel free to let them know they can. I do want to let you all know our episode sponsors today, Get Insured Solutions. If you're dealing with final life expense, which all of us will have to deal with at some point, reach out to Samantha Benson and let her know the Kim Jacobs Show referred you. Her phone number is 704-499-3616. She knows how to help you keep some of the expenses in your family's home versus having to put them all towards burial expenses. 704. Oh, you know what? Her number changed. Shoot. No, this I think is right. 704-499-3616. And definitely you can go to getinsured.solutions. Getinsured.solutions. I never charge people to be a part of the Kim Jacobs Show, but I definitely encourage you all in the studio audience, even as guests, to please pour into the Kim Jacobs Show. This is the way that we keep the program going Monday through Friday at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can do that through Cash App, $ Kim Jacobs Inc. Or you can also send it through PayPal, paypal.me/Kim Jacobs Inc. And we do have Venmo at the Kim Jacobs Show. I do that for our audio podcast listeners because some of you are on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Spotify and all of that. So you don't get to see the screen. Stay connected with Tanny. Make sure you stay connected with her. She wants you to do it at her Instagram page at Tanny Swan Writes. Tanny Swan Writes. And definitely go stay connected with Kandace. And hers is at Self-Care Circle for Caregivers. Or you can also go to author Kandace Grant, Kandace Grant. All right. That's today's episode, everybody. This show has been dedicated today to Corey Grant, in honor of Corey Grant. And if you don't walk away with anything else today, walk away with getting to the end. Make that your mission. Get to the end. All right. Any closing comment? All right. That's it, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. God bless you all. And I love you all. Bye-bye. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Kim Jacobs Show and for being in the virtual studio audience. Your presence truly does make a difference. And I look forward to you bringing your friends and family to join you in the virtual studio audience Monday through Friday at 11.